Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Board Gaming Doctor. My name is Phil, and I'll be your Board Game Doctor today. In this video, I'm going to give you my first impressions of Windmill Valley. Now, this was voted on by the community on Board Game Geek for me to play and review. So thank you for all of those who participated, whether you are watching this video or not. Thank you for your input to helping me be motivated to look at this game and play it. I was motivated already. This is one of the games that caught my eye during Gen Con, and it is being talked about during Essen as well. And so in preparation for that, I wanted to play this game and see what I thought. So the way that I structure this is I go through the mechanisms and the aspects of the game that make it feel unique. And then during that, I'm also going to make some game comparisons. I'm going to combine both of those aspects of my review and first impressions into one. I then will go over the thoughts and impressions of others who have made their comments known on Board Game Geek specifically, and then wrap it up with concluding thoughts on how I feel about this game. So, in Windmill Valley, this is a game by Danny Garcia. Where it is a medium weight game where you are taking actions on a rondel and doing various and a multitude of things, including planting tulips onto your tableau, gathering cards to make your tableau feel unique and have interesting and special powers. In addition to that, you can also customize your wheel to make those actions more unique and powerful as you take them. All the while, in addition to planting out tulips, you are placing out windmills onto a board to gain benefits along the way. You can purchase and take part in actions based off of this mini rondel in the market on the middle of the board, and whoever has the most points at the end of the game will win. So, breaking some of these different mechanisms down, first the tableau, it feels very standard to most medium weight Euro games where you are keeping track of different icons, placing certain tokens down, gaining benefits as you progress along either a track or as you try to spatially arrange these tokens so you can score points at the end of the game. I won't get into all the rules in this review, but I feel like one game that I could compare this to, if it's not only all-encompassing with a lot of typical Euro games nowadays, I will compare this first to Barcelona, which is one of Danny Garcia's other games. The way that your tableau worked seemingly in both games, if I remember correctly, and I reviewed this game last year, is that there are a lot of opportunities to cascade the actions that you take. More on how that cascades a little bit later. But the fact that you are able to plant a lot of different tulips here in a spatial puzzle, wanting to keep the same type of tulip in each row is most important to getting a lot of points out of this system. But placing them on top of spaces to gain benefits, which may include other actions or even straight up victory points, to be able to cascade certain actions as you go along. One designer of note that does a lot of this is Vital Lacerda, but this game is not at the same complexity as Lacerda's games. This definitely falls into a more streamlined or less convoluted pathway that is often found in Danny Garcia's games. So it's a little bit easier to handle if you're not so used to those types of mechanisms in gameplay or don't enjoy them if you don't enjoy the high complexity type of games. And so it's fairly easy, in my opinion, to manage this tableau, and it feels a lot like Garcia's other games, which often have cascading actions taking place. Now let's move on to the rondel. So 2 games remind me of this rondel system, one for taking actions and the other part about customizing the actions that you can place into your tableau. And those games are Praga Caput Regni and Dice Forge. So Praga is a Vladimir Suchy game where you are able to take actions based off of a shared rondel. In this game, they are combined, or they are separated per player. But in Praga, a lot of the decisions each turn revolve around a rondel of choosing actions that are beneficial to you, but also giving you an opportunity to move farther or not as far on that rondel track to be able to take actions that you need to take to be the most efficient. So a lot of decision spaces, the decision space is the same, I feel, from turn to turn when you compare Praga to Kaput Regni. And then Dice Forge has, as the name implies, an opportunity to roll dice, but also to customize those dice to give you better and more powerful actions, as well as more resources when you do roll those dice during the gameplay. And so that aspect is seen here in Windmill Valley, as you are able to customize your rondel system. And it was fun to try to match up a certain pairing of different rondel pieces to make them align so that you can take a super action once your rondel circles back to that certain action at a point. And so that was a lot of fun. There are ways to mitigate it as well with these tools, and more on that later. Or maybe more on it right now, because the last aspect that I wanted to touch on was this dike system. So each turn before you rotate your wheel, you have to decide how far you're going to rotate it. And you do so by essentially choosing one of these three actions, or major, branching actions to take. And so it tells you how many times you can move that wheel on your turn at a price. If you do choose to move it as fast as you can by 3 spaces, you do gain victory points by moving it faster as well. But you also have to move the dike representation of the dike flooding onto the land by moving this tracker up and down this particular track. There are actions on your rondel which allow you to move the space to the this marker to the left, which not only gains you benefits as shown, but also allows you to, in the future, be able to move the dike farther, or your wheel farther, because if this marker is all the way at the end, you can't go farther than 1 space. You would have to, it represents the dike being way too open and allowing for too much water flow. And so you would have to take one action and reduce the flow of the dike. And so that immediately reminded me of Lowlands. Lowlands not only shares thematic setting, as both games, I believe, are taking place, closer to the Netherlands or Denmark, in that area where the lands are low, and there is a push and pull system in Lowlands where it's somewhat semi-cooperative, where you can contribute to the dike building in the process of building a dike. If you do so, you can change the future of the game and how it's scored. And if you don't participate in it, there are other ways to benefit from it, but at the risk of losing a lot of points if not everyone else, contributes to the dike itself. And so there's a lot of social interaction in this game via the choices that you make to build or not to build the dike. More on this on my separate review on the channel. But in a somewhat similar fashion, the way that you interact with this not only tells you how you can interact with your own rondel, but also it may affect the decisions of other players as well as yours if you decide to take a lot of actions and push this marker all the way to the top, preventing other players and potentially yourself from advancing very far on the track itself. Now, I had the opportunity to skim through some of the comments made by folks who have played this game candidly without any review material online. I haven't really dived into any of the online reviews myself, or the video reviews on YouTube rather. But a lot of people commented on this game in comparison to some of other Danny Garcia games. This game is definitely lighter than games such as Barcelona, and so some people enjoyed that, some people didn't. It's easier to teach to those who aren't, as familiar or as willing to play more complex or even longer games. I will comment that this game felt shorter to play, and In addition to that, though, at the cost seemingly of the weight and the complexity of the game, this game for a lot of folks made it a little too breezy. It was too streamlined and not enough tough and meaty decisions to make throughout the game. And so I found that comment multiple times that it just didn't seem as interesting or as replayable to some folks because of how light this game felt. Now, in my opinion, I agree that this game was easier to learn than, say, games like Barcelona. I did really enjoy the different aspects of this game and how they kind of come together. Some people did not like the water track. I did. I liked this aspect of the game, despite the fact and the caveat that I would rather play Lowlands than this. But in regards to this, I do enjoy this mechanism for the fact that there is an opportunity for some interaction to potentially advance your own agenda forward at potentially the expense of someone else, or to sacrifice your agenda to prevent someone else from progressing as far as you can. The other thing that I did not mention yet is how this game ends. And I suppose there is a fifth game that I should mention here that I don't have a picture, which is Tapestry. And this reminded me of Tapestry and other games where the ending of the game is somewhat asymmetrical. Not in the sense like in Tapestry or Everdell, where everyone can be on or I should say, the game ultimately ends with everyone taking the same amount of seasons. In this game, that is not the case. There is a trigger at the end of the game that is not static, meaning that someone could race ahead and finish the game before anyone else has reached that fourth season. Everyone takes the same amount of turns, but the amount of spins that you apply to your wheel will determine how fast you progress through this calendar, which is what this is. And so, just as a side note too, I played this game against myself, but I used some dice to just randomize some of the choices that were made by this Automa person that I played against. Scoring wise, this probably is artificially low, because in this particular game that I played, the way that the dice rolls went was that this Automa player really progressed fast throughout the game itself and really spun that wheel, making the game go by faster and giving me less turns to take. I didn't keep track of how many turns I took overall, but it was probably and significantly less than you would see on an average game if you were playing against a regular person who would be strategizing a little bit more from turn to turn. And so, but the aspect of this game having a non-static ending, meaning not having a set number of turns or rounds to play this game in, made it feel more interactive and has the potential to be more socially interactive when you are playing this game and potentially looking at it. Once you really understand this game, you can look at someone else's tableau and board and plan ahead accordingly to either speed up the game or reduce the speed as necessary to be able to beat out your opponents to certain events, whether they are bonuses on this calendar track. If you progress first, you have more options to choose from to choose a benefit, or to take as much time as you can to really reap the benefits that you have set up as you have developed your cogs in your windmill rondelle, essentially, on your own board. So I like that, and that also all ties into how you meddle with this track and making sure that if you take as many spins as you can and can afford, you potentially could stop someone else from progressing as fast as they would like to on that game. And so I like the potential that provides, all in a package that is more easily understandable than your average medium to heavy weight Euro game that is often seen by Garcia and others nowadays, essentially. Does this game have replayability for me? So this game does offer a little bit of variety in terms of these cards. I should mention that these cards are helper cards that you can either play to the top of your tableau for asymmetric benefits, ongoing benefits that you can take advantage of, or for objectives that you can try to fulfill by the end of the game for extra points. And you also have a public objective that people are racing towards as well. And so there is setup variability in this game, as well as randomization of the different upgrades that you can apply to your own rondelles. And so there is, physical variation in this game, but does it feel like it will be variable from game to game? I don't know. I would be very happy to play this game again if it was offered on a like a digital format, like Board Game Arena. I think I would be interested in doing so. There are other medium weight games that I would prefer, whether they are because they have more social interaction or more variety in gameplay and tougher decisions to make despite the streamlined rule set. I've been playing a lot of Glass Road recently, which is, I think it falls in the same weight as this. If not, it probably is a little bit less in terms of rules complexity compared to Windmill Valley, or it's about the same, I should say. I would rather play that game because there's more social interaction than the potential that this game has, Windmill Valley. I think there's a lot more potential in this game rather than upfront interaction that you will see in games like Glass Road, as well as the upfront interaction that you would see in a game like Lowlands. I would definitely play this game, Windmill Valley, over Dice Forge, just because Dice Forge is a little too light in complexity for my tastes. There's more complexity and decisions to be made in this game. I think I would rather play this game over Praga as well. I felt like Praga was just a bit too overwhelming of a game for me to really want to sink my teeth into and understand the nuances of that game. And I feel like Praga is a touch more static in how you approach it because of how expansive Praga's board is, which is very similar to this Windmill field board that you are playing your windmills to in Windmill Valley. And so I think I would go for Windmill Valley over Praga. Barcelona, I haven't touched and thought about since I played it last, and so it's about the same for me. I think Windmill Valley would be easier to remember and play again, and so I might give the nod towards Windmill Valley if I were to compare this to Barcelona. But I guess this is all to say that I really enjoyed my play of Windmill Valley, and I would play it again, but it didn't leave me thinking about the decisions and the nooks and crannies that I could potentially explore in this game. I do appreciate that there are a lot of different ways to accumulate points, and I think this game would really shine at a higher player count, because I didn't even touch in this first impressions video on the this trade board, or not as much on the market as well. And so there are plenty of opportunities to gain different benefits and bonuses throughout the game that could really propel your engine and points forward in this game that I did not get to see on first blush. But I don't think there are as many nooks for me to explore in this game as there are in other games, and some of that is because of just what is presented here mechanically, but also with the social interactive aspect of this game. So a lot of people didn't enjoy how simple or how, I guess, negligent this potential social interaction was. It didn't really feel like it played a big role in their enjoyment and the tension that the game could have provided. And I think I'm in agreement mostly with what other people say, that this game didn't have that much tension or as much interaction as I think it would provide, but that is yet to be seen, and I would have to confirm that at a higher player count and playing with real folks rather than against an AI, just to really feel out the mechanism. So enjoyable game, and if what I am saying and the mechanisms that are discussed in this video and the board game comparisons that I've made speak to you and have intrigued you, then you're more than welcome, of course, to try this game out. This is a free module on Tabletop Simulator that you can check out for yourself. And so feel free to do so. And those are my thoughts on Windmill Valley. Thank you for consulting with me today, and hope that you schedule an appointment with your board gaming doctor real soon. Take care.